In today's video, we're exploring interesting ways to light your flower photography. There's a lot of options that you can do to make your flowers stand out in your shots and catch the viewer's eye. Stick around and I'll explain more in just a sec. Hi guys, I'm Ben from Adaptalux and welcome back to another flower photography tutorial where today we're talking all about lighting. Now, flower photography is really popular and it's really popular just to shoot your flowers outside using the sun as a natural light source, and that's absolutely fine. However, I'm going to be taking things one step further and bringing my flowers into a controlled environment and using artificial light to enhance the colors and the look of my images to really catch the eye. I've got a nice variety of different colored flowers here and they're all nice and bright and look really fresh. So I'm going to be putting some light down onto these flowers and getting some interesting compositions. We need to set up first, and I've got a few different elements that I'm going to be using today to really get the best flower photos possible. So first of all, let's check out our lighting. I've got an Adaptalux Studio box here, and in this is my recommendation for what you guys need to start out with flower photography. This is our recommendation for all the flower photographers out there for a configuration of lighting that will get you a lot of range and a lot of interesting shots. So in here we have the Adaptalux control pod. First of all, that's sat just here, and then we have some diffusers. So we've got level 1, 2 and 3 diffusers there, so there's a lot of choice for diffusing your white light. We also have a green and a pink color filter which produce really nice shades that complement flowers really nicely. The pink in particular is really nice for white flowers. It just gives this natural sort of wash of early morning looking light. The green is fantastic for enhancing foliage and making the backgrounds pop a little bit more if you are shooting outside. So those two colors are really great to pop onto the white lighting arms. In this pack we have 3 white lighting arms and 1 amber lighting arm. So these 3 white lights are going to be really helpful for getting light into your flowers in all sorts of different ways. And because there's 3 of them, you can get really quite complex with your lighting setups. That amber light is really fantastic for recreating sort of sunsetty looks and also enhancing reds, oranges and yellows on your flowers. Really common colors to see in flower petals. So those lighting arms, all used in combination, can get you a huge variety of different lighting setups. I'm going to be using this exact kit for all of the shots that you see today, so you can recreate everything that I'm about to do with this setup. Once again, this is linked down in the description. This is the flower photography pack, and this is going to be on a discount for this weekend only, so go and check it out. Now I'm going to pull some of these lighting arms out and start plugging things in and set up for my first flower shot. I am going to be shooting on a tripod today, so I've got my Novaflex tripod here with an NISI or NISI focusing rail attached to the top. This is on a ball head so that I can get some really nice angles on the tops of my flowers. I can position my camera wherever it needs to be to see the parts of the flowers that I really want to focus in on. On the top of that, we've got a Sony a7 III and a 100mm Tacina f2.8 macro lens on the front. So this lens is really fantastic for moving out and getting a full flower, but also getting really close in and seeing all of the detail on the petals and the stamen and getting a lot closer than a standard lens. If you really want to get into flower photography, I definitely would recommend investing in a macro lens of some kind, just so that you can get really close up to your flowers without cropping in too much. The last piece of equipment that I've got attached to my camera is a shutter release cable. I'm going to be focus stacking my flowers, which requires everything to be nice and stable and not moving around, so I don't really want to be touching the shutter button of my camera every time I take a shot. That's what this is for. I'm going to be stood here adjusting the focusing rail and taking shots as I go. The next thing that we need is somewhere to put our flowers. So you'll notice we've added a couple more pieces of equipment here. This here is the macro subject holder, which has these flexible crocodile clip arms, which are really fantastic for holding flowers in place, but you can also use them to hold a backdrop. This is one of our backdrop gradient cards, background gradient cards rather. This one is black, so I'm going for a black background shot of my tulip, which is nicely held in place. You'll also notice that the front of the tulip is missing a petal. That's because I've deliberately removed a petal from the front here so that we can see into the center of the flower, and I think this is a really fantastic way to capture all of the detail of a flower all in one go without looking down from the top like this, where you'd traditionally see. I want to get a shot looking in from the side of the flower, looking into the stamen. However, it's looking a little bit dull at the moment, and this is where our lighting is going to come in. I want to add a lot of light to this scene to make it really stand out. The first thing that I think I want to do is get some light into the center here, and I'm going to do that by backlighting. The lighting arms of the Adaptalux Studio are really special for flower photography because they're so flexible. You can bend these into all kinds of positions and find the way into your flowers for your light. You can always place light exactly where you need it to be with a system like this. So we're going to be plugging our lighting arms into our control pod and then placing our light inside our flowers, which is a really tricky thing to do unless you've got a specialist macro photography light source like this one. So I'll be plugging in several lighting arms and moving these lighting arms around my flower, including behind the petals. I want some light to be shining through those petals and illuminating the inside of the flower without any obvious light source shining in from the top. I'll then be balancing that light with a light from the front as well, so that the petals don't look too dark, and hopefully that'll be enough to create a really nice effect on the inside of this flower. So we're back with our tulip, but things are looking a little bit different, and I think a much nicer, much more interesting photograph. And that's because of the lighting. You'll see here that there is light inside the flower, and that's due to this lighting arm back here shining, backlighting through the petals and bringing a lot of light into the flower itself. And then over here we have a diffused light just brightening up these front petals just here, just to balance out the light, because otherwise the center of the flower would be far too bright. All of that is sat on a mini tripod, which is a really handy way to just stabilize this whole setup and have it sat on the tabletop at roughly the same height as your subject. You'll notice here that we're still only using 2 white lights out of the 4 in the flower photography pack. The others are still sat in the box over there, so there's still potential for adding even more light to this scene if we want to. I think I'm pretty happy with the way this is looking now, so I'm going to start focus stacking by moving my camera through my image, changing the focus as we go and taking lots of photographs. I'm then going to stack them in Helicon focus, and hopefully this is going to look nice and sharp. What I might do is only focus stack the very center of the flower and get a little view through these out of focus petals at the front here. I think that might look quite interesting. So I'm going to try a couple of shots and we can see what we get. Next up, I want to try enhancing the color on these yellow flowers. They're very uniform and not too interesting as far as colored flowers go. So I think there's something that we can do with our amber lighting arm to just add a little bit of variation into these shots. Again, I think I'm going to backlight this and play around with a little bit of light and darkness to try and make this look a little bit more interesting than a simple blob of yellow petals. So I'm going to be using the amber lighting arm along with a couple of white lighting arms to shine through these petals in a couple of different colors. So as you can see here, we now have two lighting arms lighting from the back, and one of them is our amber arm. So we're getting a nice amber color coming in through the back of our flower just here, and that is resulting in a really interesting shot. You can see here that we're underexposed on some of the further away petals, the ones that are closer to the camera, but deeper into the flower, everything is nice and bright, and we've got that variation that we were looking for. Otherwise, everything would be nice and yellow down here and yellow at the top, but we've actually got orange at the top here from that amber lighting arm, which you can probably see is sneakily hidden behind the flower, and you can't tell that it's there at all in the shot. Now I'm going to focus stack this one and try a few other things with different flowers. One of the questions that we get asked quite often is, what is the difference between the coloured light produced by a colour filter and the coloured light produced by a coloured lighting arm? So the lighting arms are dedicated coloured LEDs. You can see that this one here is amber because it's got this little orange piece down here, and this is going to produce a very vivid, harsh colour. It's going to be very, very bright, very, very vivid, and a very high quality colour because of that dedicated coloured LED. These aren't RGB, they're not trying to mix the light to create your color. This is pure orange. So as I plug this amber lighting arm in, you can see that this is a very bright, vivid, and harsh orange color. Whereas conversely, if we were to say plug in our pink color filter on a white lighting arm, this is a much softer, diffused, much more subtle color as opposed to that harsh color from the dedicated LED lighting arm. So you can do these things in a couple of different ways. You can create the same effect in a couple of different ways, because if you've got this dedicated colored LED, you can also pop a diffuser onto the end of that and get a very similar soft diffused wash effect as the color filter. So the colored LED lighting arms are really fantastic if you want that ability to have the really harsh, direct colored light, which for shooting our flowers is really handy. If you just want something more subtle, then you can go for white lighting arms and color filters. Here's a fantastic example of how to use that pink color filter, which is this one down here, to great effect. This flower is purple and it really benefits from that little accentuation of an extra little bit of pink light coming in from the bottom here. It just adds a little extra something that is a little bit hard to tell, so it's very, very subtle, but it does enhance the look of those purple flowers just a little bit and adds a little bit of extra something that you wouldn't get if you were shooting outdoors. I've had a lot of fun playing around with my flowers today and getting a lot of light into the flowers themselves, diffusing my light, bringing it in from different directions and using a little dash of color to enhance the color that's already there on the flowers. Of course, you don't have to do all of this all at once. You can start out quite slowly and play around with just 1 or 2 lights and then expand to maybe 3 or even all 4 lights that come in this flower photography pack. I would recommend checking out that pack this weekend. We do have a fantastic deal on just for the weekend that this video has launched, so check out the link in the description and make sure to get yourself a good deal for some fantastic lighting for enhancing your flower photos. Let me know what you think to my flower photography today, and let me know whether or not you want to see more flower photography in the future. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful. But for now, that is all I've got time for. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.